what is frustrating? Recording one video 5 times. 5, all 5. So instead of you needing to record your video 5 times, I think I want to point out three things. 3 things for you to check over, review what you need for the day. First is going to be, sorry, use these fingers. First is going to be equipment. Second is going to be settings. And third is going to be testing. Now let me go a little bit more in depth about this. Equipment, in most cases, usually pretty self-explanatory. You want to look over all the cameras you're going to be using, making sure they're not broken, they're still usable, no water damage, no physical damage that prevents your camera from being able to do what you need it to do. That also extends to if you have a lavalier mic, like I do in my helmet, the breakout cables, the splitter cables, whatever cables you're using, you want to make sure those are fine as well, because obviously that comes hand in hand for everything. Otherwise, you'll be like me, because I think in the last 3 to 4 days, I made all possible mistakes you can make when it comes to footage. And I'll go over that a little bit more. Now, again, checking over your equipment, your cables, so on and so forth, to make sure everything is in operating order and you won't have any problems with them. Now, second of all, which is your settings, because I also made this mistake, is to make sure, like when it comes to filming, there are 3 major settings that you're going to be playing with in order to capture your footage. Now, and each setting is going to have its own specific use, right? There is aperture, which is the size of the hole, the size of it, in a sense how much light you're letting in at any one time. Your ISO, which is the sensitivity of the sensor on your camera. And last but not least would be shutter speed, which is how fast that shutter opens and closes, which determines how much light you're letting in at any one frame. Right? This is kind of like the same theory in some ways in most ways that apply to photography and videography, right? If you can use that word for vlogging, I guess one way or another you can. How I made a mistake with regards to this is when it comes to video, right? Especially when it comes to shutter speed, you're able to control how fast that shutter opens and closes. And usually they have what they call the 180 rule, right? Things move when they move really fast, they blur, right? And it's supposed to be a very natural blur that your eyes are used to. Typically, to achieve that, you do the 180 rule, which is you have the shutter speed at twice whatever your frames per second is. So in case right now I'm filming 24 frames per second, I would film with a 1/48th shutter speed. Now that's pretty slow in comparison to obviously a lot higher speeds, where some cameras go to like 1/4000th or 1/8000th, which means you're gonna have a lot of light come in, which means you can overexpose. Like right now I have everything set to auto for my GoPro right here, so in the clouds you can see that there are details in the clouds. You can see the shadows, you can see the lights, you can see what the clouds are. In some other footage, which I'm going to show right here, you're going to see that everything is overexposed. When it's overexposed, all you're going to see is white. There's no detail in there, it's just white. Right? And it's the same the other way around as well. When your shutter speed is way too fast, you're going to get a very dark image that's not going to have any information either, right? So that's why you want it at a good shutter speed that gets you all the information, and you want it at the 180 rule so you can get that motion blur that you're used to. It feels natural, right? So in order to do that, when I lock the aperture speed, shutter speed, so in order to do that, when I lock the shutter speed, I have to install what they call an ND filter, which basically is a way to reduce the amount of light that is coming in and hitting that sensor at any one time, right? It's something you just put onto the lens. And I was testing that because I just got that like midweek, and I was testing that before I went up riding. But I decided, because I wasn't very familiar with it and it seemed like there were some edges that were lost because of it, I decided not to use it. But when I was testing it, I locked my shutter speed. So because I locked my shutter speed, everything was overexposed for that whole 8 to 10 hour day worth of riding. So now in my hard drive, I have 22 gigabytes worth of footage that I cannot use, which is why it's really important to check all of your settings before you go ride, because each day is going to be a little bit different, and you want to make sure that the settings fit your needs for that day, right? Obviously, you want to bring your equipment. You want to make sure your equipment's up to par. You have the equipment that you need for that day. You want to dump all your footage so your SD cards have room for you to film. And you also, again, you want to make sure the settings fit. The third thing, which I recommend, highly recommend, because I did that right before I left today to ensure I don't have to film a sixth time, is to test the cameras out. Test them before you head out. Make sure they're working to how it should be. If I tested it, I would have known that my shutter speed was way too slow. I would have known that on another day my mic wasn't fully plugged in and there was no sound. And just now, I would have known that my Insta360 wasn't actually filming anything. It took a picture, not a video. Right? Test all your stuff, make sure everything's to what you need it to be. So when you try to film one simple vlog, you don't have to film it 5 times over in order to get footage that you need. So yeah, I have a lot of spare footage that I can't use, but I wanted to test out a separate angle today, right? I got my Insta360 behind me with the 360 degree mod. I'm pretty sure my back looks very big. You probably can't see much of the road, but you'll be able to see kind of surroundings. That'll be fun to kind of play with and see how I can kind of incorporate that, whether they're behind me or in a different position. We're gonna try stuff out, spice it up, get a little bit more variety. So you're not just looking at this one angle that's honestly kind of boring when you watch it 10 minutes a day every week. Yeah, let me know if you can think of anything else that I should kind of look out for when it comes to prepping the vlog, which clearly I'm doing a really bad job at. Yeah, I had some fun with the Insta360 though. I have some B-roll that I want to throw in, so I'm gonna throw it in right here, and we'll see how that B-roll looked. Just went through Steveston Village. Check it out.
Bye.